Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode 140 of the Audible Farm podcast, and this episode is brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. I got a fresh batch of Couchtown coffee in recently. It's my favorite coffee, and I'm not just saying that. I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, you know what, I drink my coffee with cream and sugar, and I tried Couchtown Coffee Black because you recommended it, and I love it. It's the only coffee I can drink that is black coffee, and I prefer my coffee black, but it's fun to hear other people say that they enjoy it just for the way it tastes, and they don't have to church it up with a bunch of cream and sugar just to choke it down like they do with other coffees. So hats off to everybody that's really, out there been trying it. I really appreciate it, and I know that Couchtown Coffee does too. So go to couchtowncoffee.com, find a coffee you like, make an order, let them know Audible Farm sent you, and they will give you 20% off. Why? Because Couchtown Coffee is that awesome. It really is that good. So check it out, couchtowncoffee.com. This episode, I'm sitting down with Clint Riedel. Clint Riedel is a buddy of mine. We actually met doing the podcast. That's how we met. And, we've been buddies ever since for the most part. I've been going to his jam nights now for about 2 years. And I've met a lot of really cool people at the jam nights there in Barnum, Iowa. And in this episode, we sit down and talk about, meeting really neat people at the jam nights and the positive environment that's there, and how up here in northern Iowa, around the Fort Dodge area and the extended areas, there's a lot of people up here that are always pulling for one another. A lot of people and nobody's jealous of their peers. We all enjoy one another. We go see each other play live. We all really enjoy watching each other do what we do. And, it's just very positive overall. And I really appreciate, being able to be afforded the opportunity to get involved in this music scene up here, whether it be with the jam nights with Clint or playing music with Jesse Wilson Music. And, we talk about all sorts of stuff in here. We talk about all sorts of things at the jam nights. We talk about different people in the area, the positivity of the scene, going to see other people play shows, the random people we've run into at the jam nights and things of that sort. So buckle up. He's one of my favorite guests. A lot of people love listening to him talk. So I hope you guys enjoy this one as much as I do. I got to sit down with a really good friend of mine. This is episode 140 with Clint Riedel of Clint Riedel Music and the Blue Ribbon Ramblers.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
So today I'm sitting down with Mr. Clint Riedel, and so what's going on, man? You're usually one of my most frequent guests. And this week, I just kind of, me and Mason talk about this a lot. Mason from the Regional Rock Hour, if you're watching the video version. I got the shirt on. Woo! Love you, Mason. You're like the bailout guest for all of us, because it's just like, hey, you want to do a podcast or you want to do an interview? It's like, heck yeah, and you're one of the busier musicians, so.
Well, you guys are easy to talk to be honest. It's just hanging out with pals.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's one of the beauties of this. Like, we're going into this one without any, anything real to talk about, I guess, but you do have a lot of shows coming up. I know, I guess your calendar is right here, but I mean, last week you played 3 shows?
6. That was a 6-day run.
6-day run, jeez. So let's name them off. Where all did you play?
Luckily, I've got this stand-in gig in Barnum, as you all know. Oh, speaking of that, not to sidetrack, but ran into a really cool musician last night who found out about the Barnum Jam through your podcast.
Yeah.
So Chris Anderson showed up and played his little heart out. And if you're listening, man, I'm excited we already talked a little bit, and he's definitely going to play some shows up in Fort Dodge.
Oh,
and yeah. I'm going to try and wiggle my way into the Des Moines scene a little bit, but not to put that scene down. But hey, Fort Dodge has got it going on. Man, there's a bunch of places to play up here. It's just, there's so much support for live music. It's insane.
Yeah, it's Chris Anderson, Chris with a K, Anderson with an A. That's his little tagline. I love it too. It's easy to remember, and it's easy to find him online and everything. So, and that's another one of those things I never really thought people are going to listen to the podcast and then think I'm going to drive up to Barnum and go to a jam night. But I do I do
2
talk
hours.
about it.
That dude drove, and simply because you're talking to our scummy musician asses. And,
But I mean, like we always talk about, and once again, we're not downing on another music scene anywhere because
oh God, no.
there's music scenes everywhere. But it's just like up here, everyone's super, super supportive of one another. Not that they're not elsewhere, but like up here, it's just we're all buddies and we're all okay with helping each other out. Like I play with Jesse Wilson, and we've gone places, and they're like, "Do you know anybody else that plays?" And it's like, "Yeah, here's contact info for 3 different people. Hit them up." And,
Yeah, just an hour ago, we were hanging out with Nate from he owns Bootleggers and huge live music supporter. Just brought us over some sweatshirts, and Jeremy Ober, the immortal himself, was just hanging out, and we're a scene.
Yeah.
It's like.
I mean, it's cool though, because it's not like we just see each other at shows randomly and we're just like, hey, in passing. We're all like pretty much buddies with one another.
Want to see each other do that much better.
Yeah, it blows my mind. It's not that we don't deserve it, but when me and Jesse play shows places, it's crazy because it's just like, oh shit, Clint's out in the crowd, or Jeremy's here, or like or Owen, or I mean Chris Mernka. I mean, we can talk about all sorts of people that are either in and out of the scene somehow or another.
And it's so fun and fluid. Like it's, hey, there you are. You want to play something? Because I got to go to the bathroom real quick, and then all of a sudden it's just your buddies, and it's that much better.
Yeah, me and Jesse actually talked about that on a podcast a couple of weeks back, and it was like one of the first shows that he played was at Shiny Top. He played during an intermission when you took a short break. And so you were at the show when we were there, and it was just like, well, we're going to take a short break, but Clint's going to come up and play. And I was like, hell yeah, that's how it's done, And Jesse's done that before at other shows. Like when we played in Stratford, we let Nate and Eric come up there, and they played a short set in while we were doing, taking a break or whatever. And I don't know. I think just some of that stuff is, it's like I said, we're all friends. It's an art form that we're all like happy to see one another succeed or play, even though we all play different styles of music to an extent. There is crossover with some of our styles, but there's also not, because everybody likes playing their own type of music.
Yeah,
so.
And honestly, like the lack of competition, I think it has a lot to do with how many options there are. Like you can find some place to play just in the Fort Dodge area. I hate to keep bragging about how easy it is around here, but it really is. Like Monday might be the only day that there's not scheduled music around Fort Dodge. Yeah. Otherwise, Tuesday through Sunday, you're going to catch a show, and if you're a musician, you're going to have the ability to play one. And it's so supportive around here. It's insanity.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't want to just call out all the places, but like what, Tuesday is Shiny Top, and Wednesday is Sneakers, and Thursday, there's usually a show somewhere. It's not a guarantee.
Well, Thursday's Shiny, Tuesday's the Jam, but also Tuesday.
Thursday was Shiny, that's right.
Yeah, and then Friday is Boot, or any other place because it's the weekend. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Play at Community Tap, play it, at Amigos. Like, Amigos has Wednesdays, so does Rides. It's just...
There's a lot of places up here.
Goes on and on.
And that's another thing, like, and it's not like other scenes protect the scenes or play gatekeeper, but there is, a tiny bit of that I feel that I've seen in other places, and it's nothing against it, but like I also... When I play in other scenes, I play like original punk tunes or rock tunes and things like that, or I've dabbled in the metal scene and things like that. And once again, it's not like they're playing gatekeeper, but sometimes you're just like, how'd you get involved with this gig? And it's like, oh, I know a guy. And it's like, that's the answer you're going to give me? You're not going to be like, call this dude or hit up?
Hell no. Give me a napkin and a pen. I'll write down the information for you.
Yeah. An analogy I drew for this, this scene up here is there's enough pie up here for everybody to cut their own slice, and nobody's going hungry.
Yep. That's perfect.
It's just seriously the way it is, and like I said, Jesse and I have done it before where it's like, well, we're playing in Stratford, and we booked a long show and we could play it and take the breaks and stuff like that, but it's just like, Scott Kirkard hasn't played down here. Scott, you want to come down and play an hour? We'll pay you. We'll take some of our money and give it to you.
Speaking of more names, like Bo Bonner, a pal of mine, one of my original, like him and I played around before I met Caleb Ferry, and that's a long time ago. Caleb's 88 now. So that was like 42 years ago. But he showed up at a gig I was playing this weekend over in Clarion, Tim Buck Brew, another supporter of live music. And I was just like, hey man, they book here, so get up there and play some songs, and then give me your information, and I'll just keep on going.
Yeah.
He's booked there already. It's just that I would hope every musician does that for any other musician.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to take it right back to Bootleggers and Nate at Bootleggers. He's one of those guys where he likes, we were talking about this earlier, he likes all kinds of music. He's not just a guy that's like, I like rap, I like rock, I like techno, it's everything. He likes metal, he likes 90s music, he likes folk, country, I mean, you name it, he likes music.
Yep, and that's why he supports our dumbasses. He's like, come on in, man, let's see what you got, because I can tolerate anything.
Yeah, and I mean, that's another thing, like, we'll go places, he'll be there supporting music just like we are as musicians supporting our peers, but he'll also be the guy that's just like, let's take it back to jam night. He shows up at jam night and it's just like, have you seen this guy that's up here playing? None of us know who he is. His name's Chris Anderson. Chris with a K.
Well done, buddy.
Yeah, Chris with a K, Anderson with an A. And it's like, he's like, does he do shows? And I was just like, hold on a sec. I just like walked inside in the middle of, he was taking a break in between songs. I was like, hey, you play shows? And he's just like, yep. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna have to make sure we pass your contact info along to Nate. And then not only that, but like, right after I said that, you walk up and you're just like, hey, Nate's outside. He books shows in Fort Dodge sometimes. You should hit him up.
To him.
And so it's like we're all looking out for this guy that we don't know just based on the fact that he drove all the way up here to play songs with us.
And his music was freaking outstanding.
His music was great.
Yeah, if you're listening, man, like some of those originals, I was like, wow, all right. I don't want to play anymore. I'm just going to sit down and listen. So I cracked the door, went outside, had a cigarette, and I got to see the show from the best angle.
Yeah,
Side stage, man.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He was a real nice guy, and it was one of those deals where, like, I mean, you're at every jam night, quite obviously. You host the jam nights in Barnum at the Junkyard. If anybody's wondering, it's the Junkyard Bar and Grill in Barnum, Iowa. They're every Tuesday, 7 to 10. 10 is a loose number because it's sometimes they go till midnight, sometimes whatever. But it's one of those things where, you've played up there enough, and you could play the whole night if you wanted to. But if there's other people, you let everyone else, you always start the night off, and then it's just like, oh, there's other musicians. You guys want to come up here and play? And I was the only one playing leads that night, and it's, I mean, it's like there's other people that come and play leads sometimes, and if somebody else comes, it's like, yeah, you play leads. I mean, it's not like I'm running the show. I mean, I would just show up and play leads, and sometimes I'm just like bored and I don't want to play leads, so I just
sometimes the bass. Who knows? Maybe even the drums. I've seen that happen, Pete.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll dabble a little bit, but that's another thing. Like Coal Miner was there last night. He played some drums,
For sure.
And Owen, the young phenom Owen O'Brien was there.
Oh yeah, that's his finishing move. It's called the phenom.
Oh gosh, yeah, he's one of a kind too. We've said it at shows before, but if you're gonna try and shit talk Owen, you better have a couple comebacks ready because that kid is quick on his feet.
Really, really is.
But it's one of like going back to Chris Anderson playing up there, and it was just like, dude, you got the floor. Play as much as you want, And he's like, oh, I'll play like 3 songs and get out of everybody's way. And it's like, no.
Yeah, and and to his credit, like the due diligence, he took the time to call the Junkyard and talk to Ashton Dillon, POS that he is, runs the Junkyard. But yeah, he called and he's like, is there a sign-up sheet? And I would just like any musician out there listening to know that it's so loosely run. If you feel like playing something and you can, then do it. And if you can't, step away for a minute,
Yeah.
and that's the only rules. Otherwise, there's definitely going to be time for you.
Yeah,
So
have a little tact if you're getting in the way,
yeah.
and that's pretty
I've
much
tried
it.
drumming. It doesn't always work. And then I stop.
Dude, exactly. I played drums on one of your songs. They're like, all right, we're going to play this one next. And I was just like, can't do it, too fast. Like,
I really thought you had it.
Yeah, and so I just stood up and walked away. It's like, I'm not going to wreck a song just sitting there.
Yeah,
so.
the music goes on.
Yeah, somebody, and then Cole showed up, and it's like, cool, I don't have to struggle on the drums. We got somebody that plays drums,
Right.
And like you said, it's Chris did his due diligence. He heard about it from the podcast, which is wild. Chris, if you're listening, thank you very much for listening to the podcast. And then he finds out the Junkyard. He's like, oh, there's here's their Facebook page. Here's a phone number. This guy owns it. Let's send him a message and blah blah blah. And he's messaging him, and like you said, is there a sign up sheet? And it's he comes from the Des Moines area, and down there are jams, but they're kind of busy, and there's not.
I've played a couple down in the area and been invited to a couple even to where like Iowa City and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Elrace. Thank you very much. I got a bunch of gigs out of it, but just someone reaching out like, I see you play music. Would you like to? Here's the slot we have for you. And it's like, man, I don't know if I can make that work, but if I could do this,
Mm-hmm.
but you can throw all the negotiating out because it's just come one, come all, show up and have some fun. Hopefully it works.
Yeah, and going back to due diligence, it's like he didn't just show up and just kind of hem-haw his way through it. He showed up, he knew what he was going to play. He had a whole list of songs in his pocket that he wanted to play, and it was just like, you got more, play them, you got originals, play them, you got covers, play them, and we just kind of gave him the floor. I say we, but it's it's your jam, so like,
oh shit, man, we're all in it together.
But all of us did that, like he just kept playing, and then it was just like, play more. Everyone there loving it, because we all see each other so much, you and me and Jesse and Jeremy Ober and just
even the startups like Jesse Wilson,
Yeah.
he came around here when his knee was all bummed up, and he's like, yeah, I play a little music, and I was like, cool, this is the spot, just get comfortable. Next thing you know, buying a bunch of speakers, recording in his house,
Yep.
What a jump.
Yeah.
And one of the nicest things that's ever been done for me, thank you, Jesse, was he framed a picture that someone had taken of me at one of my shows. I think it was Scott Kirkhart's. Yeah, it was Scott Kirkhart's
Oh, yeah.
Broken Strings fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, man, I just want to say thank you. Like, he just gave me a stage, and here I am. I'm like, fuck, heck yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've said to a lot of people. I owe my musical abilities now, first and foremost to the desire to do it, but the thing that gave me the desire to do it and then the willpower to sit and practice at home and get better was going to the Patty's Pub jams with Jeremy Ober,
Definitely. Yep.
I went to a few of those and didn't play, and then finally got, the bravery and courage to jump up on stage and play a couple times, and believe it or not, you were the guy that I played with.
Yeah, I remember that. It was you, me. It was the strangest, just a big old stew of musicians that were supposedly the house band that night. Obviously, there's a ton of musicians, so we don't play all night or anything, but
No.
when we were up there just meshing, it was like, this is a strange brew, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it was
You, me, DJ, Brad,
and Scott Dahl was the
Scott Dahl
drummer.
on drums. Yeah.
And that was one of the ones where I was not the house band yet, but that was one of those things where I was still figuring out how to do everything and how to be good at playing guitar and how to pick my spots. And once again, I'm going to come back to the Scott Dahl advice of when it's your turn to get in the way, and when you're not supposed to get in the way, stay out of the way. And it's
Well said.
Yeah, and I've said it a million times in the podcast. When I first heard that, I was like, that's mean. And then I was like, no, that's great advice. That's great advice, So, I took that advice to heart, and that was one of the first times I got to play in front of people, not in a structured punk band kind of setting. It was just kind of an open jam where you're just like, here's the chords, I'm playing this stuff, and Brad's just leans over and he's like, maybe play something like this, just giving me a little bit of advice, and it's like, all right, I'll play it, and then you just give me the look, and it's like, oh, it's my turn to do some solos, and I just tag in some solos and stuff, and whammo, away we go, and then I find out you got a jam night over here, so I started coming to the jams here, and when I first started coming here, there weren't too many people coming to the jams because, like you said, your jam nights that you host here, some nights they're packed, and I mean packed. Sometimes you're lucky to play a few songs, and other nights, like this last week, it was just like, I was the only one there playing leads, so it was like, I guess I'll play when I feel like it, but at the same time, I don't feel any pressure to play because there's so many other people here. There was 3 or 4 singer-songwriters there, so it's like I'm not going to get in the way and tag on a bunch of songs I don't know how to play. And
I do like it when you get up there and sing, though. It's a rarity, everybody, but if you do come Tuesdays, like Peter Stockdale, he sings a bit.
Yeah, I do a little bit here and there, but that and that was one of the things. I came to a couple jam nights here, and I played that one at Patty's. Then I came here to Barnum, and I played I didn't actually play the first couple weeks. It was you and Jeremy and a couple other people were up there playing, and I was just like, I don't know. Jeremy's really good at guitar, and I'm not really that good, so I don't.
It's not a competition.
It's not a competition. It's not. But then one time Jeremy was just like, all right, I'm gonna take a break, and he just walked away and just put the guitar in my hands, and I was just like, it's kind of Jeremy's way of just being like, it's your turn, buddy.
Yeah, here you go.
Yep, and it's like he's just, the amp is on, everything's plugged in, go for it. It's like, all right, I guess, and I did well enough at those 2 jam nights that Jeremy saw me at. He was just like, hey, if you want to, Patty's Pub is doing another jam night this next month, if you want to be in the house band, which, over there at the house band is you bring the gear and people play on your gear. They just have to bring a guitar, and it's
I'd hate to be a drummer. I've seen some drummers go out, just out of their way to try and break ahead.
Yeah, I would not want somebody beating on my drum
That's
set.
why Caleb Ferry doesn't house, he was asked 152,000 times. And he's like, no, man, because I hit these things hard enough. I know what other people are going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the way it is. And I mean, that's the rough part about being a drummer. But I mean, I've loaned my guitar out to other people to play too at jam nights. And it's, I mean, some people are rough on guitars.
It's a real thing. Like Jesse's regretted letting me just like, here you go, man, mine's plugged in. And then all of a sudden I forget that it's not my guitar.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, hey, it just is what it is. But, you know, those jam nights, like I said, it's, you know, Chris with a K, Anderson with an A, he showed up, and there's goodie for everybody watching on the video, the recording cat extraordinaire.
She's lovely.
But yeah, he shows up, he played a handful of songs, and everybody was loving it. I'm talking about the people that are regulars there, the people that weren't regulars there, the musicians that are regulars, just regular patrons that just showed up on a random Tuesday, and they're like, oh, there's music playing, and then it's pretty wild. Like every time he got done playing, people were going nuts. And I was even playing some songs with him, and it was just, I got done and it was just like, I just look over and I'm like, dude, that's a killer tune, you know? And the people on stage with him were clapping for him, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. And New Blood is always great because granted, I love that I've been here for 5 years. I'm blessed, but I bet everybody in this environment is just tired of me, you know? like thank you. Somebody else.
But yeah, we just kept pushing him. It's like, play more if you want. Like, you know, you drove a long way to be here. We are loving this. So just...
Oh, and another attribute, this man, he said he was homeschooling 6 children throughout the pandemic. I was like, woo. And
hats off to you, buddy.
Yeah, literally. Because he said, yeah, this is like my first day off in a good long while. And I'm like... chose to drive 2 hours, huh? And he's like, yeah, I've seen a lot, heard a lot. Well, thank you. Everybody, it's well received, and I can't wait to watch your show up here, man.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, there's other people that are playing music, and he's just like, well, I'll get off the stage, and we just let him keep playing, you know, as much as he wanted to, until he was finally like, all right, I'm going to take a break now. And it was like, all right, next up, you know. And then Jesse went up and played like 4 or 5 songs, and he's just like, well, it's hot. My voice is kind of shot because, you know, me and Jesse have been pretty busy, and we did that one show where we did
Jesse Wilson music.
Yeah.
You can go check out a ton of videos. Peter Stockdale is in charge of all that nonsense, by the way.
Yeah.
Mine as well.
He records a lot of it. I've edited a couple for him, but I'm trying to teach him how to edit his own videos so he can streamline putting it out. But
checks out.
But yeah, he actually just had a song come out with Scott Kirkhart last week called Stiff Drink. If you guys are looking for that, it's the anthem of the summer.
I was going to say that's how I describe it.
It seriously is. I've been trying to tell Jesse, like, book all your shows this summer and call it the Stiff Drink Tour, because it's seriously, like, that's a banger of a tune. It's one of those songs where if Jesse played it and I didn't know he wrote it, I'd be like, who wrote that? And he'd be like, me. And I'd be like, nuh-uh.
No, Jesse, not you.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
And it's that good. It really is. But yeah, it's a killer tune. Check that one out. It's all over online. You know, check him out, Jesse Wilson Music. But yeah, we played a bunch of shows a couple weeks ago, and Jesse kind of wrecked his voice because we played 3 shows 3 days in a row, you know, 4-hour shows each day. And oh man, yeah. So Jesse went up there and played some tunes, and he's just like, well, my voice is kind of worn out, and it's really hot up here, because it was, you know, we had the door open and stuff, because if we were going outside, we wanted to be able to hear, you know, Chris Anderson still playing, so we could cheer him on from the patio outside, you know. And
oh man, then somebody accidentally like hit a family of vermin like outside. You could smell the death. It was weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty awesome though, because you know, it's just like, Chris, you want to come back up here? You know, and it's just like, well, you know, he's like, I'm gonna sit here for just a little bit and relax, and it's like, all right, well, you know, Clint will come up here and play a couple more tunes, and I played a couple tunes with you, and then it's just like, you know, before you leave, you know, swing back on up here. And everybody, you know, once again went nuts for him. And I hope he gets some bookings up in the area, because he did open some eyes around here. So like, you know, if there ever is an opportunity where like me and Jesse have a show booked, I would love to, you know, book him on the front half of a show, or give him an hour before we play, or something like that. I know you'd probably do the same for him, you know.
I'm looking forward to sharing a show. I was talking to him. He comes from a metal background.
Yeah. And that's the other crazy thing was, like, I was like, you know, how'd you figure out about the podcast? And he's like, oh, I figured out about, you know, from Cody Benton from Air of Sorrow, which is a metal band down in Des Moines. I was just like, how?
Peter, you do so many good things. Think of all the people and businesses we've named tonight.
Yeah, we have, you know, we actually have. We'll mention the Junkyard one more time.
Don't mind it.
That's where the jams are at. But, you know, it's crazy to think that, like, this guy that plays acoustic songs, he's a singer-songwriter, and he first kind of found out about the podcast by me interviewing metal guys in Des Moines, and then stumbled into the singer-songwriter scene up here at jam nights, and it's like, this is, it is pretty wild. And once again, I'm not trying to be like, hooray, my podcast is so awesome, and everybody loves it. Seriously, it touched my heart to know that he actually listened. Thanks to everybody for listening every week or whatever week you choose to listen. But
hats off to the supporters.
But yeah, I mean, it's wild to know that like the word traveled like that. Talking about jam nights and posting about it or sharing things about it or being tagged in things that have to do with jam nights. I would take pictures at them and share them online. And once again, I think one of the first jam nights I started taking a lot of pictures at was the 5-year anniversary, because it was it was packed, and I mean it was packed. And I took a bunch of pictures of that, and Ashton shared them, and a pile of people shared those. Ashton being the guy who runs the runs Junkyard here in town.
POS. He drums.
Yep. He does drum. Yep. Stick flips and all, which is always blows my mind. It always blows my mind.
I keep praying, just drop it. Please look like a schmuck. Please.
He never drops it. He never does.
It's odd as hell.
It's pretty funny because even really experienced drummers will watch him drum and they're like, you just do a stick flip? And it's like, yeah, he did. He did a stick flip.
Well, you got time to catch it when you're not doing anything else, right?
But it was, it was pretty fun to know that the word travels like that, and like I said, Ashton and the Junkyard page, they all share, the pictures that I share on the Audible Farm page. And, I just put the little watermark in the corner and take the pictures and put them up online, and he shares them. And then he's like, hey, don't you have a little Tuesday jam night, picture you made where you took a picture and just wrote the text on it? I was like, yeah, I do. So I just started sending him a new one each week. And, I did.
He gladly just berates the internet with it.
Yeah. Yep. The worst part is last week I forgot to send him one, and this week I sent him one, but it was 4:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. And it's well, the jam night's in 2.5 hours, I guess. So
that's how I do all my posts.
Yeah.
I was I'll see you guys in 3 hours, because that's how long it takes me to drive there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was just like, yeah, could you send it to me on Monday? Maybe I'll post it a day early. And I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely can do. But it's also, he understands I'm not getting paid for it or anything. I just put my little watermark in the corner, and he sees it and posts it, and that's it, And
the social media aspect, that escapes me. I wish I was a little better at it just for bookings and whatnot. But other than that, I like how, I hate to use this word, organic everything is. It's just I'll put out a post what are you doing tonight? You should probably come here. I'm driving a long ways away to play music. Yeah. Why don't you do the same just to listen?
Yeah.
Yeah. And those who do, it's awesome. And those who don't, I don't mind.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you do have there are a lot of people that do the social media for a lot of things that they do, but you're more of a word of mouth kind of guy. And I think that's one of the things that differentiates what you're doing from what a lot of other people do is you may or may not make an event page for it, or maybe Brad will make one, the day before or whatever, and
that's about the only way it's getting made.
But people just show up to where you're at,
or pleasantly surprised. I played Sunday and somebody showed up to the winery, they were supporting the winery in Humboldt, and they just show up. And she was like, oh, I didn't realize it was going to be you. Just the sweetest little old lady. She's like, I've been following the Ramblers. Mm-hmm. I didn't know exactly that, because me and Brad go by Clint Riedel and The Truth when we're not all four together. And she was like, I've been trying to catch that show. I was so nice. It was a pleasant surprise that you're here right now. And I thought, well, that's pretty badass of you to just come on a Sunday to listen to music regardless of whoever shows up.
Yeah.
But it's even cooler that... Well, I guess you know me,
yep.
Yeah, or at least some of my stories.
Well, even my mom was watching Iowa Public Television the other day, and she was just, she hits me up, and she's like, I just saw Clint on TV, and I was just like, nah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I saw the same episode. I'm sitting there watching Iowa Ingredient with Charity Nebby, whom I love. And then now I watch PBS, and you can actually put a face to the voice. It's weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't always want to see what you thought somebody looked like.
Yeah.
First time I saw Garrison Keillor, I was like, really?
Oh yeah, yeah. Garrison Keillor's a fun one. I actually saw him live once.
I love that man. And when I first saw him, I think it was on that movie that he made, Prairie Home Companion. And because prior internet, you didn't just Google somebody and see their face or anything. Mm-hmm. So I was just I've grown up with this man's voice in my head. Mm-hmm. And then I saw that movie, and I was like, close, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he's
a dapper man. I'm not taking nothing away.
yeah, yeah. And you know that, like you said, it's you and I are the same kind of person a little bit, where the fact we're like we kind of listen to a lot of NPR or Iowa Public Radio.
For sure.
I don't listen to as much nowadays, just based on the fact of
I don't want to get into it either, but it just seems a little overwhelming. You know, music cures the soul, and it doesn't feel like there's enough music right now.
Yeah. We'll just bypass our proclivities for why we do or don't listen to it. But you know, Charity Nebby, it was just like, I've heard this name, I've heard this voice, I've heard her on the radio a billion times.
Yep.
And then it's just like, oh, that's what she looks like. She's on TV. Cool, you know. And
she's one of the best interviewers too.
Yes,
she honestly is. Her and just anybody in the lineup. But I was so stunned when I saw her come on the television the other day and interviewing Michael Dunn from the Farm to Fork truck up in Spirit Lake, Iowa.
Yeah.
There's me and Caleb playing music.
Yeah.
Like on Iowa Public Television.
Yeah, your name was on the marquee, and then
Felt pretty cool.
Then you're in the background in another scene, and that was, once again, that's another crazy thing. Like, it's not like my mom is like really heavy in the music scene. She really doesn't, go to too many shows, even ones I play at. And I don't blame her. She's, an older lady. She's got stuff she wants to do, and she's doing the stuff she wants to do, and I don't expect.
Well, as I get older, I'm like, can't we start at 6? Like, no, take the stage at 9.
Yeah. Trust me. I feel it though. I've played those 9 to 1 shows before, and it's just like, oh Lord, 1 o'clock is late.
After we tear down and drive 3 hours, this ought to be a wonderful sunrise.
Oh man. Yep. Yeah. Me and Jesse have done those gigs too quite a few times, where we get home and it's just like, well, it's 4 a.m. and I just dropped Jesse off, It's like, God dang.
I'm starting to rent hotel rooms. Like, the older I get and the further away I play, I'm just like, it's worth it.
Yeah,
I sleep in my car because I don't mind, but sometimes people come a knocking and you're like, I don't want you to see what I have going on here. It's just me passed out after a gig. Yeah,
busted my car to steal a guitar and stab me or something. Yeah, yep. I get what you're saying. Not that we play in shady areas or whatever. But
I do. No lie. I was at Waterloo, The Loft, another wonderful venue. Love playing there. And so I made the mistake. There's a couple of hotels around there, and I'm not going to name drop any bad hotel, but there is a bad hotel there. And I stayed in it, and I was sending pictures because there was like stains on the wall, but they were perfect finger like drags. Pretty sure it was blood. And then you're not supposed to smoke cigarettes, but given the hotel room I was in, I was like, I don't think they'll mind too much. So I opened the window, opened the screen, looked down on like the second floor ceiling because I'm on the 3rd or 4th, so it's a little ways down. But directly down from my hotel room is a knife and a needle. And I was like, well, that's why there's blood streaks on the wall. Yeah, okay, cool. So I just smoked my cigarette and performed my gig, came back, and like had my keys in my hand just in case anyone was waiting. Like, this guy actually rented it for the whole night because...
You never know.
I'm not kidding you. As I was checking in, there was a dude really mad that he could only rent it. Like, he only wanted it for an hour, but you had to rent it for 3 hours. So he had to give him $20, and he was upset. Yeah. So these are the places I sleep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than, like you said, staying in your car in a parking garage and risking anything. There,
the same dude. So,
yeah. Yeah. But, and that... it's not that the Loft is in a rough neighborhood, but it's the downtown area of Waterloo.
Oh, no, just the hotel I picked.
It's... and that's a fun place too. Like,
I agree wholeheartedly.
I believe you took a booking there that you couldn't take, so you passed it on to me and Jesse, and we played there, if I'm not mistaken.
I am a horrible bookkeeper, and I double booked that night, and I was like, well, actually, I bet Pete and Jesse will just love the shit out of this place.
Yeah, and once again, thank you for that, because you could have just
just pay it forward, man.
Yeah, you could have just told them no, but you helped us get our foot in the door.
And I definitely don't want to leave a venue hanging, like someone who depends on me. Like, and I wouldn't just send them anybody. Like, hey Owen, why don't you go do a 4-hour bass solo?
And he could, but yeah,
but I wouldn't do that.
I totally get what you're saying, But it's like one of those things where I'm very thankful that. Once again, that you help get our foot in the door at certain places, because you're pretty well established and Jesse's just starting out, and I am not.
Oh, he's taking the fast track though.
Yeah,
holy cow!
And I will have to say, I am not Jesse Wilson Music, but I am one of the friends in Jesse Wilson Music and Friends.
Sure. Yeah.
So if I don't have a booking that day,
you get to brag about your band.
yeah. If I don't have a booking that day with Three Finger Betty, I'll definitely play a show with Jesse. And I talked about it in the solo episode that I did a while back, but it's a first come first serve type deal. You know, if whoever has the booking first, I'll take it. You know, granted, I would prefer to get paid to play music and paid handsomely, like we do sometimes. But at the same rate, it's that old Operation Ivy lyric. If you got a garage or an amp, I will play anytime. You know, and I really like playing music. You know, in the solo episode, I talked about that where like, you know, actually that day that we were playing at the Loft, I'm not going to say too much about it, but I was having a bad day. Like there was a fire out on our farm and it was not fun. And I was all ready to go. I had all my stuff packed up and it's like, I've got to leave very soon to get to this thing, and a fire broke out and we had to put the fire out, and you know, that's just what you do. So then I had to go back inside, take a quick run through the shower one more time, get a completely different set of clothes, put them on and take off, and then just haul ass over there, you know. And we were there with plenty of time to spare and set up and make everything great and stuff,
but still, this is how my day starts.
Yeah.
All right.
And so I'm in a rough mood, to say nicely. Let's just say I'm not in a good mood. But then when me and Jesse played music for 4 hours, I was driving home, and I was about halfway home, and I was just like, oh, I didn't think about how I had a rough start to my day at all. And
2 or 200, if it feels, you know, once you get around your buddies making noise, it's no better feeling.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not one to be like, oh, music is, you know, soothes the soul and it's good for everybody and it's so therapeutic and dirkety dirk. But it's like, it really was that day. You know, it's a good distraction, because once you're up there playing, you don't have time to think about like, oh, I don't like this person, or I said this goofy thing the other day and I bet they hate me, or, you know, like
those bills don't exist when you're thinking like it's C, G, and F, right?
Yeah. Right. Yep. And then, here comes the chord change and there's a breakdown at this part and then here's the solo break and you know.
Yeah, the only thing on my mind is like, if I start a fire, I'm going to leave the window open so Goody can jump out. But other than that, take it all, Lord.
And that was another good show, because I knew some people that I went to school with at Iowa Central that, you know, at the time lived in Waterloo, and I was just like, hey, you know, swing out to the show if you want. You know, you really don't have to, but it's
nice when they do.
Yeah,
like,
it's free to get in. And
strange you say that. I played at the Loft just a couple weeks ago, and a high school friend was like, I live in Waterloo. Mm-hmm. Hi, Emily Boyd. Thank you for coming out and listening. And she's like, I'll see you there. It's strange. Okay, it's been like 20 years.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's really nice. And like I said, I went to school with this person, and I might have had one class with them. I know I was in a club with them at the school, because it was just like an extracurricular thing. But
was it dance or
no,
chess?
not a dance club. No, I was actually in a accounting and business club, and I was
much cooler.
Yeah, I was the communications director, so I had helped like digitize a whole bunch of stuff and organize it all and set up the social media for a lot of things. And the gal that came to see me was actually the person who took over my position when I left. So in order to pass everything along, I just like brought a notebook with all the information to help her to take control of it. And it's just one of those things I always thought, like at college, I went back to school at an older age. So I was just like, I'll just take them out to eat, and then I'll just, you know, pass all this information along, and they get a free meal because they're a poor college student or whatever, you know. And,
checks out.
You know, I'm not a poor college student, so I was just like, maybe they don't care, maybe they do, but I just figured it was nice. So I just took her out to eat and gave her all the information and showed her how to log in and make posts and told her about how I did it and stuff. And she took the ball and ran with it the next year. And you know, I've still followed all the stuff on social media, so I could still see it all. And it was kind of cool to see somebody else, you know, taking the ball and running with it like that. And then she went to school in Waterloo, and I was like, hey, you know, if you're bored or whatever and you want to go to this, go for it, you know. And if, you know, once again, if you're not, you don't have to.
Sure.
Some of the best advice I think I got as far as that kind of stuff, somebody told me once, when you're playing shows, don't ever expect your friends or your family to go to your shows. And I was like, that's mean advice, but it's also good advice. Cause
it's so true, though.
Yeah, because it's like if you are expecting constantly everyone to go to your shows and they don't show up, then you're just like, oh, I'm mad at this person because they didn't show up. But it's like, people have different stuff to do. Like, what do you know, maybe it's their only night that's free and they've got a family. And it's like, well, or maybe they're going to sit at home with their family, or maybe they're going to go on a date, or maybe they got something else they're going to do. They're going to a different show or something.
Honestly, Caleb and Laura have the greatest, like, understanding of that. Caleb, my drummer, my brother from a different mother. I love you, Caleb Ferry. And Laura Lou, his wife, she's like, I've seen your shows enough times. So I was at the beginning of our like band ship. I was like, well, is Laura gonna make it out? I would ask every show, and he's like, no. You know, like she would come around quite a bit, but it was like, no. And I was like, I totally get that. Like, you've seen these songs 150 times, you know, and so she's got the perfect line, and he's got the perfect understanding. I don't expect her to be there. It's great when she is.
Yeah, yeah. And once again, that's nothing against Laura. She's super nice lady.
No.
You know?
Yep. The coolest.
Honestly, so is Caleb. He's
and
super
a better
nice
golfer
guy.
than Brad Hofing. I'll say it out loud.
Oh, man, maybe she should be wearing the Titleist hat.
Caleb just bought a Titleist hat. I'm not kidding.
Oh, yeah?
He calls Brad, sends him a picture, and he's like, you're not the only Rambler who golfs now. Like, it's a call out. And Brad's a banger. Like,
oh, man.
9 out of the last 10 club championships, Brad Hofing. Yeah. Caleb just straight up, like, WWE'd him.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. Just calls him out.
Speaking of WWE, talking to Jeremy Ober earlier, I'll say it's his fault. He gave Owen O'Brien a finishing move. It's called the panty dropper, and he stole it from Brad Hofing. I just started the beef.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I'm going to start a fight between those two.
Because they're both bass players. See what I did there?
They are. That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to actually have dedicated bass players because, I mean, I play the bass sometimes, but I'm not like a quote-unquote dedicated bass player. So, you know, it is nice to have somebody that actually plays the bass and plays it very well. And that's not to say that Brad can't play a guitar because he can also play a guitar very, very well,
and
too.
He sings better than anyone in any band around the area.
That's true. He's a very good singer, and this isn't like me, saying like, well, Peter sings and he's good at it. No, Brad's like, he sings like an angel. You know?
Really, really do.
And that's another one where it sneaks out there sometimes. You'll get him to sing a song every now and then. And
Friday at Bootleggers.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere. Thank you, Nate, for supplying the alcohol that made Brad sing.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, it's like sneaky devil, you know, he's so good at it, and he doesn't do it much, but when he does, it's just like, this is so cool to have him do that, you know, and, you know, it's really cool, you know, having friends show up at shows, having them not show up at shows, or just having your peers of sorts. You out of here, Kat?
I wonder if she can you hear that on the microphone? My cat, she knows how to open doors.
Yeah, she just opened the door, so maybe she'll scratch and claw her way back in.
Checks
if anybody's
out.
Watching the video, I was just letting the cat out, but who let the cats out? No, okay.
Nate.
Yes, Nate did. But yeah, I mean, it's super cool to have your friends show up at shows, and like I said, that Friday show that you were playing at Bootleggers this last week, I was literally just driving through Fort Dodge. I stopped at a gas station to grab a snack. I pulled up Facebook while I was in the parking lot, and it was just like, oh, Clint's at Bootleggers. I mean, it's like right over there. You know, I'm on the edge of town. It's like a 3-minute drive. I'll just go over there and hang out, you know. And I showed up there, and somebody said, hey, aren't you playing a show with Jesse tonight? And I said, better not be, because I'm here, you know. And then lo and behold, who walks in the back door like 10 minutes later? Jesse. You know. And it's like, we didn't even plan this stuff. And it's once again, it's like, it's so cool to know that, like, you know, great minds think alike or whatever, but it's like we're, you know, supporting the local music scene. Me and Jesse don't have a show, so why not go see somebody else play a show, you know? So we cruised into town and watched somebody play a show. Cruised in separately, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, it's...
Honestly, what I remember when Jeremy Ober, like, I started playing with Caleb, and Jeremy Ober would start showing up to my shows, and I'm like, I must be doing something right. I got the Immortal, you know, looking on. And then I realized... he's being a good dude. This is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go out and support. And then we grew to be like best pals.
Yep.
You know, so now I don't expect to see my friends, but I know they're there when they can be.
Yeah, exactly.
And before I was just so impressed to see that support. So, and I'm sure you and Jesse see it the same way.
Exactly.
Like, holy cow. Jeremy Ober just watched my show. This is awesome.
And this isn't down talking anybody's abilities, but you're like, you know, I'm sure you feel the same way I do, at least when you first started. You're up there playing, and you're like, man, I don't deserve to have these awesome people showing up at my shows, and here they are coming to support me. And it's like, wouldn't they rather be doing anything else? It's like, no, they wouldn't. They want to support their friends, you know? And, and, you know, you and I were talking about it beforehand. We talked a little bit about it on the podcast here, but it's just like, Jeremy's so good. I am intimidated by him to an extent. You know, I'm not like, oh, Jeremy's here, I can't talk to him. He's too cool for me. You know, there's none of that stuff. But it's just like, this guy's awesome. You know, he's so good, he really doesn't have to support anyone if he doesn't want to, you know, but he's literally one of the nicest people ever. I played with him a couple weeks ago at the jam night here in Barnum, and I was just like, can I play with you? Is that cool? And he's just like, yeah. And I was like, you'll have to help me keep up with you. You know, it's not like I'm bad at playing guitar or anything, but he'll call out.
Just give me a little frame.
Yeah, he'll call out chord changes, and he'll be like, you can play it in this key or that key, or maybe when we get to the solo, I change the key so you can play it in this key if you want to. And it's like,
man, that's the difference between musicians and people that play music. You
yeah.
know? That's the God's honest truth. Like, I know 100,000, well, I know 1 billion people that play music in this world.
Yeah.
But there's not very many musicians. You know, like, this is your love and your dedication, and you speak that language when you talk. You know?
And Jeremy's always been like that, as far as I know. Like, I've known him, I mean, I honestly, like, when I was going to school, he was just a couple years older than me, and he went to the same elementary school I did for a while. And so, like, I remember him, like, being a kid, you know, and, you know, when he still had the baby face and everything. I still have, like, these weird images of, like, Jeremy Ober burned in my mind. You know, we'd be playing basketball out at recess, and he was there or whatever, you know. And
did he have long hair?
No, he wore a baseball cap all the time, though. Damn. I do remember that. So, Jeremy, if you're listening, I do remember you wearing a baseball cap, like, every day at recess. So
we weren't allowed to in Belmont-Clemmy High School. No hats allowed.
No hats allowed. That's
I've always had good hats, though.
That's a Peanuts reference, yeah. No dogs allowed, and they wouldn't let Snoopy in. But anyways, yeah, I mean, he's always been like that. He's an amazing guitar teacher and one of those things, you know, and it's something I, like, kind of want to pass along if I can. So I became a guitar teacher, and I bounced ideas off of him and learned, you know, the best way to interact with people when you have students that are learning from you. And even then, like, I recently redid a guitar and donated it to the Broken Strings Foundation. It's one of Jeremy's old guitars that he gave to me to hydro dip, and I hydro dipped it, and I brought it back to him, and I said, hey, do you want to learn how to solder? You know, because he was just, you know, he knows how to do everything else. Why not learn how to solder, you know? So he's just like, yeah, sure, why not? So I showed him how to solder, and guess what? He soldered the whole thing up, and it only took 2 tries. All we had to do was fix one thing, and it was a very, you know, easy fix. It was just some of the shielding on one of the wires burned through and touched the ground on something, so no sound came out. But like,
why wouldn't he be good at that as well?
Yeah, exactly. So we just clipped it and resoldered it. Boom, worked fine. You know, and it's like, this guy's a fast learner. He's a nice guy. I would love to, you know, give him the knowledge how to do this, especially since I have the time available, you know, at the moment I do anyways. So it's just like, yeah, I'll come over and show you how to solder. So the guitar that he donated to the Reforge initiative to get auctioned off for scholarship funds, that will end up, you know, happening. And that was one that, like I said, he donated to me. I sanded it all down, hydro dipped it, gave it back to him. He soldered it up, and boom, it's there's a video of it out there in the public. If you want, if you're listening to this on YouTube, just go to the Audible Farm YouTube channel, which is where you're listening to this anyways, and then just look. It's one of the most recent videos I've got on there. But
you said you put March of the Vultures on top of that?
Yeah, there's a Brutal Republic song, March of the Vultures, on there. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm kind of, you know, might be speaking out of pocket here, but I think he actually wrote that song with the guitar that I hydro dipped.
Nice.
If I'm not mistaken, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I think if that's correct,
that would have a really cool, like,
yeah, like, it's a nice attachment to it. And that's one of the reasons I chose the song. And like I said, I think that's right. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And that's why I chose the song. And, you know, Brad and him and I, like, kind of bounced a couple song ideas around for that. And that's, you know, it's really neat that he's doing that for the, you know, the Reforge initiative. They're giving out scholarships to students looking to go to school for, you know, music or art related things and that kind of stuff.
He was just over here. What day is that? Like June 30th?
My phone is over there. I think it's June 30th. Once again, don't quote me on that.
Calendar's over there.
But watch the video. It's in there. It's nice. In there. Oh, here, I'll tell you what. Here's your calendar. Flip through that bad boy, and I'll do a little more talking here. Over. But yeah, Jeremy's always been one of the nicest guys. You go to jam nights with him, and he's just like, you know, these are the chord changes. This is the stuff that's going on.
So close. July 30th.
July 30th. All right. So, but yes, if you guys are missing the date and you didn't have a pen with you, just watch that video. It's in there. It's also in the description of that video, so check that out. But, you know, and if... You know, I've been up on stage with him where I'm playing some stuff and it's like, well, this doesn't really fit. And he'll just like lean over, just be like, you know, whatever, D minor or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, I gotcha. Okay, we're back in, you know, or like if he's playing a song and it's like, here's the chord changes and then there's a bridge that's like way out in left field. He'll lean over and tell you what it is, so you're not just like
left, as he's playing it too.
Yeah, left hanging there, you know, and it's brilliant. It's super nice of him. He's you know, I've got the opportunity to play guitar with some of his students even, and his students.
Nate and Eric,
yeah.
They opened up for Brutal Republic over at the 503 First show ever for Eric, 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Just one of Jeremy's students, and he's like, yeah, totally impressed. Like, you work on your licks, and then you work on your stage presence, and then you're a musician. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's getting paid for this now. You know.
Yeah, that's a job.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, you know, he's not much different than any of us were when we were like 16. I mean, a lot of us were pretty full of ourselves, which...
Oh, I didn't have the aspiration, though. Like, he's actually got the time and drive.
He's out there doing it. You know, he's playing a lot of guitar. And
good on you, kid.
We'll go to jam nights, and he's pretty shy at jam nights because he's like, oh, you guys are so good and stuff. And it's like, no, we're not. We're not any better. We're not any better than you, kid. Like, he's half my age and at least as good as I am at the guitar.
The best way to describe that is I leaned over to Jordan, and I was like, it's an E with like a tiny little B on it. And he's like, E flat, and like, sure, sounds great. Yeah. Like, I have no idea what's going on here. So yeah, the fact that the 16-year-old just gets up there and shreds, and it's like, yeah, you got the world by the tail. All you gotta do now is use it.
Yeah, and that's one of those, I like using analogies to describe things, and that's one of my favorite analogies for that is this. Like, he's maybe like scared of his own talents. He doesn't know if people will accept it. The only thing I have over him is more stage experience. That is it.
I think it's all age. Like, at that age, you don't want to stand out. You want to blend in, but you know, right afterwards, you want to stand out. Like, look at me, world, and then it's just all evolution. He's just jumping ahead of the curve.
Yeah, exactly. And
good on you, by the way.
The analogy I like to use for that is this, and I've said it before, maybe not even on the podcast, but I've said it before to a lot of my buddies, and it's this: like, I look at playing music kind of like making yourself food, like making yourself a sandwich, right? So, like, if you make yourself a sandwich, it's pretty boring. Like, you're packing your lunch for tomorrow, and the next day you're eating your sandwich, and you're just like, whatever, it's a sandwich. But if I made you a sandwich with the exact same ingredients you used, 100% the exact same sandwich, you would eat it the next day and you'd be like, this sandwich is amazing. Like, why? Because somebody else made it. And that's why. Like, I love that analogy just on that simple fact, because it's just like, well, somebody makes you spaghetti, it's amazing. And it's like, well, what do they do? Like, they didn't do anything different than you do. There's just spaghetti, you know? And it's
so good. You got to try this restaurant. It's Fazoli's.
Yeah. And everyone's always like bored with their own spaghetti, or they're bored with their own sandwich. So they think that everyone else is bored with their sandwich. And it's like, no, we freaking love this because you're making music for us, even though you might be bored with your own music.
They like that they didn't have to see the process is all. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have to do any work for it. I just got to sit here and enjoy what you were doing, you know? And I was always, that was one reason I didn't like to play at jam nights, and I was always super nervous to play in front of people because it's like, I'm not very good, and there's so many people that are so much better than me, and it's like, but they are not me and I am not them, and that's one of the things that makes whatever I do,
Brad Hofing,
individualistic of me.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that makes you individualistic of you.
Exactly.
There's songs, I've played a show with you, or I've played jam nights with you and things like that. There's a couple songs that you play that Jesse plays, and you guys play them differently. And you maybe capo it off in a different place, or you have like different patterns to play these parts or whatever, or you finger pick and he strums it or whatever, or he leaves me more room to do solos and you don't or whatever. And it's all gravy because it's all different. And that's one of the things I enjoy about it so much, is the fact that it's different, it's a different sandwich that I get to eat every time I go do it.
I do like the unstructured side of things where it's like, I'm going to say it out loud. I can't stand jazz. It just sounds like chaos in a bucket and somebody screaming while it burns, But I do like just improvised music. So I don't know how that works out. Probably a double negative in that sentence. But anyway, I enjoy like, this is a jam, like whatever feels right at the time. Like you said, Jesse just leans over when the crowd's not all that interested, like, keep going, man. And I don't know how many times I've leaned over at Brad and like 10-minute bass solo, he's like, don't, but you don't know what's going to happen that minute. You don't know, there's no structure to it. And then there's the opposite side, like Brad's dad, he plays in the Carl King, like he's well trained, plays a cello, but he doesn't want to come over and play in the jam because there's not that line of music just sitting there like, this is what I'm supposed to do next. It's like, no, man, we're going to feel it, and whatever feels right, go.
Yeah.
We might step on toes, but we'll try and back off real fast. If not.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some of that at jam nights too, where like I step on your toes because I want to solo too long and it's time for you to come back in and sing, and you do, and you're just
or I just sing on like, oh geez, I jumped in the middle of a beautiful guitar solo from Pete, and I was like, well, Can't get that minute back. Keep thinking of what the words are.
Yeah, you get the first line of the verse out, and you're just like, sorry about that, and then you just like keep going. It's like, nah, I don't care, man. I'm sorry, I kept going. You know, it's
and
like
that's the beauty of on stage too. Like, I wonder how many people notice. Well, in the junkyard environment, it's close quarters, so you can hear all the shenanigans. But playing on bigger stages and stuff, there's so much banter on stage to all you non-musicians that. Honestly, we're writing books up there in between like notes. It's weird.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I wonder how many people actually notice that, because that's another thing is like you and I as musicians and the rest of us that are up there playing, it's like we notice the mistakes, and we notice when somebody steps on someone else's toes, or like if the guy soloing goes too long, or like if you're playing a song that's in 6/8 time, you know, and I'm just like I'm soloing in something that feels like 3/4, and I'm just like wait, what?
Drummer drives the bus. I've come to realize, like, whatever the beat is, we're sticking to it, or we all just sound like jazz.
Yeah, and so like there's like I said, there's a couple times I've like soloed thinking like, oh, this is 4/4 solo, so it's just like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. But you're playing a song that's like 6/8. It's like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and I'm like, oh crap, my solo's not going to end on the right spot, and then I kind of get lost where the chord changes are at. It's like, well, I'll get it the next time around, you know. And like when I first started playing, I was so like self-conscious. I would have just been like, no,
just defeated, like I can't believe,
crying. I would have just set my guitar down and walked away. Not really crying, but it would just been like, God dang, this sucks, you know. But now I just laugh because it's just like, it wasn't very good, was it? It's like, no, it wasn't. It's like, my bad, you know. Like
walk off stage, give yourself a D- and have a beer. You know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's once again when it's your turn to get in the way, you know, and when it's not your turn to get in the way, don't get in the way. So sometimes I've done that too, where it's just like, well, I played 4 songs and that last one I kind of sucked, so who's up next, you know? And it's like,
oh, the best part, like Brad's been recording everything, and I didn't realize we played at Community Tap as a full band for the first time in a very long time. And he's like, yeah, I recorded the whole thing. I'll cut it, you know, if I need to. It's like, I don't want to hear any of that, Brad. I just remember that night getting away real fast. He's like, yeah, but they're, you know, basement tapes. I'm like,
yep.
Oh, okay. So there might be like this weird, like eclectic version of the Blue Ribbon Ramblers out there after my death, where Brad's like, I feel like I can release it now. And I start telling like parakeet jokes or something.
I can release it now and I'll make the money instead of Clint. No, I'm just kidding.
All $48.
Yeah. Oh, man. You do have a Bandcamp page, though, where people can buy a couple of your live recordings demos and things like that, little singles and such. And, you know, I think that should be bolstered up a little bit so people can check it out. You know, speaking of basement tapes, there is a radio show called the Iowa Basement Tapes. It's also a podcast. It's available online. Check it out. I don't have anything to do with it. It's Christian Day is the guy's name that runs it.
Just paying it forward, man.
He's a beautiful, beautiful individual for doing what he does, but he finds like outdated songs from things that like I don't know, like Three Finger Betty used to put like every live set, we'd clip it apart and put it online, and then as for a marketing ploy, we decided to take some of that offline just because we don't want people to have like, well, there's an EP in here buried in there somewhere with like 500 live recordings that might not have the best quality. So we want people to find the EP when we release the EP. So we went that route.
You're proud to release, yeah.
Yes. But you know, Christian would go out there and he'd find some of his favorite songs of us doing live recordings, and he'd purchase the albums, you know, and save them and put them on the, you know, on the radio sometimes or whatever. And it's like, that's really cool, you know. And I actually had, you know, somebody, Jordan Malin from the Des Moines Music Coalition hit me up, and he's like, somebody was looking for this 90s band. I think they had this name maybe, and they had an album, but we can't find it, and we're just trying to see if we can find it. Do you know anything about it? And I said, well, let me see what I can do. And I was like, I bet Christian has something on the Iowa Music, you know, or on the Iowa Basement Tapes about it. So I cruised through the Iowa Basement Tapes, boom, found it, and then it's just like, well, I wonder if there's, you know, the full album, because he's got a couple of their live tunes here. Guess what? Found the album. He found a copy of it from somewhere. He got the permission to put it up online. Boom, it's online, and it's free to listen to and free to buy if somebody wants to download it. And it was like somebody from Southern California that was just like, I heard them when I was in Iowa in the 90s, and we were looking for their stuff. Yeah. And it's, you know, and that's one of those weird things where like I'm starting to build a really good rapport with like some of these other podcasters and interviewers and people who have different things to help preserve the music scene around here. And I guess what I'm doing with this podcast is just trying to preserve, you know, a slice of the music scene in some capacity, whether it be just sitting talking to you guys or recording live sets if I can and putting them online. And
I think you expand it, man. Like,
yeah,
honestly, this is to the masses, whoever is listening. If it affects one person and they drive 2 hours to come play some tunes, Yeah, you've done your job.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, like, we were talking about the great Nate from Bootleggers. You know, he went what he went with us when we went to El Rey's, me and Jesse, and we played a set there, and they were like, "Oh, you guys are too good for this, you know, like this Monday open mic night stuff." And it was just like, "Well, I appreciate it, you know." And then it's like, "Well, let's stick around and see who else is there." And there was a couple of rappers; they were pretty good. I did an interview with Ion Alexakis. That was one of my recent ones, and I ran into him at that open mic night. I guess they call it the Songwriter Mondays or something like that. And so, like, another person I met there was Michael Husky, and Nate saw Michael playing, and he's like, "That guy's actually pretty good. I'm gonna hit him up and see if he wants to play up here." So we hit him up, you know, or Nate hit him up, and he's like, "Hey, I'll pay you to play at Bootleggers on Sunday or whatever." And it's like, cool, you know, can we find him another place to play? So we found him, you know, we lined him up with Sneakers, and it was just like, you know, we don't care. You're not taking enough pie away from anybody up here to make them mad, you know. So it's like we booked him a couple shows, we got him paid for a weekend.
And that BS line about, like, you know, you show up but you play and there's a lot of exposure. It's like, exposure's nice and all, but I smoke cigarettes and drink bourbon, so I can't buy that with exposure.
That's true, you know.
So it's wonderful that, like, Nate enjoys him enough to get him up here and
pay him.
Yep, exactly. Like,
yeah, and we brought
gas is not free.
No, it's not free. He drove 3 hours one way to play up in Fort Dodge for a weekend,
which gladly I'll do for next to nothing. But, you know,
it's a lot nicer when somebody.
But it's
pays.
not nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, we got him lined up at Sneakers the day before, so he played at Sneakers too. So, and that was one of those things where it's like, this guy's pretty good. Hit him up, you know. Like, oh, there comes Goody back in here. I don't know if anybody saw that. It's kind of off camera. Come on, hey, Goody. But yeah, I mean, that's one of those cool things, you know, you run into so many cool people going and playing shows and playing those, you know, those weird jam nights or those, you know, songwriter circles and things like that. And, you know, you run into him, and I've actually built a really good relationship with Michael Husky, and he came up another weekend and played at Bootleggers. And even he said out loud, and I have no reason to disbelieve him, but he said, "Goody, don't you dare climb in front of that camera."
Do it.
Oh my gosh, it's so close. Goody's like right in front of the camera. Oh, there's the bump. Oh, the bump from the camera. But yeah, so if anybody's watching the video version and it bumped, it's because the cat bumped into it. But anyways, so
she's hungry.
It's hilarious. We're getting close to ending here, anyways. But so yeah, like, you know, I ran into Michael Husky. He's such a nice guy. We got him booked at some shows up here, and he said this is one of my favorite areas to play in, and even said about Bootleggers, this is one of my favorite places to play in Iowa that I've played in. You know?
Nate won't be mad for me to say this. Like, you know, if there was some chicken wire around the stage, if there were a stage, I'd feel better about playing at Bootleggers.
Yeah.
I love the honky tonk vibe. Like, you don't know if you're gonna get stabbed. You don't know if you're gonna get shot.
You're not gonna get stabbed or shot at Bootleggers.
I disagree. I was shot and stabbed at Bootleggers.
You look great for.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean. There's a cool clientele at Bootleggers where there's like older people come in earlier in the night, and then a younger, hipper crowd, I would say, comes in.
Oh, there's
later,
a definite rollover.
Later at night. So if you play those like an 8 to 11 show or an 8 to midnight, you're gonna get some of the older people up there, some of which like to dance to the music, which is really cool.
Yep.
And then the later in the night comes in, you get a completely different crowd. They're all younger. People like some people are getting rowdy. Some people are just sitting there having a couple of beers, watching the music, and it's really neat to see the difference of people that are coming in there. And Michael Husky's right on. It's one of those reasons that, like, it's a really fun place to play because it doesn't matter what hour you're in there, somebody's enjoying the tunes that you're playing. You know.
And 2 or 200, doesn't matter how many people you're playing to, just enjoy it. That's how I look at it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it is much more difficult to play to 2 people than it is to 200. The energy you get from 200
definitely.
Helps you ramp it up a little bit.
But then you just make way for solos.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But, you know, like I said, it's fun to play music. It's a nice distraction from, like, what's going on in your daily life. You know, it is kind of a thing where you're like, oh, I got to go work. I'm actually, you know, you're working, you know, and when I play music, I mean, I guess I'm working too, so I got to go put in work, you know, but it's also one of those things where it's like, it's a nice distraction from the mundane monotony of everyday life.
And that's the difference between, like, people who play music and musicians, you know, and even then, not putting anyone down with their craft, but, like, if they're paying you, give them a show, you know, like,
yeah.
I hate to walk into a place and they're just like 3 hours of tuning, one song, and you're like, all right, first time out. I remember that day. I do. I honestly do.
Tuning at full volume.
Yeah. There's a button.
Yeah, there is a button. Just turn it down and tune, and can come back to it. But
I'm not putting down any of you Audible tuners, but none of us want to hear that. It's just like the guy checking his drums. Caleb, fuck you.
Yeah, there's honestly, it's not that bad, but it is kind of like when you're sitting there and it's just like all you hear is meow, and you're like, okay, you got it, but
and that was an actual lie. Caleb's never tuned his drums. They just sound amazing every time he sets up.
yeah, I think he just sits behind them and they tune themselves. They're like, I better sound good because he's gonna beat me, like.
I think it's called a saddle, like the chair they sit in or whatever. He's got a new saddle, and it is fancy.
Yeah, I've heard people call them thrones.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yep, thrones.
Yep.
So it's cheetah skin.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's a throne. It's gilded and everything. It's got a pimp cup next to it. No,
I think it is gold rounded. Like, it looks like a bar stool, but it's wonderful.
Yeah, so I mean it's one of those things. It's cool to run into new people. It's cool to like I said, I ran into Michael Husky down in Iowa City, and he played a couple different weekends up here in Fort Dodge because once again, there's enough pie for everyone to cut a slice up here, whether or not we're locals or not. We're looking out for everybody, and it's not just like it's not like we're the Fort Dodge gatekeepers that are only the Fort Dodge people get to play here. There's nothing to do with that.
Definitely not.
Here's another one. I was just like, Nate, have you ever heard of Matt Woods? And he says no, and I said, listen to this, and he says, dude, this is good. I'm calling him, and
you're wearing a Matt Woods hat.
I'm wearing a Matt Woods hat right now, and guess what Nate did? He hit up Matt Woods and was like, do you want to come up and play at my bar? And guess who's playing up there? What is it, tomorrow? This is coming out Thursday. Guess who's playing there tomorrow? Matt Woods.
So go to that show.
I'm going to that show.
Yep.
Oh gosh, it's gonna be so. And
then it goes back, like, even all these small connections, but Iowa music is so strong. Like, the roots run deep.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw Matt Woods. It was at Soldier Creek in the winery outside of Fort Dodge here, and he started in on, I forget which Joe Price song, but I walked up, just a schmuck, I'm wine drunk, and I was like, is that a Joe Price song? And he's like, yeah, and keeps playing and singing, and I was like, I was that guy. Oh, man, I'm sorry,
he's busy
Matt.
when he's playing.
Yeah, no doubt.
He's got a cool style. He's got that finger-picking root style of playing that's amazing. And
neither hand stops moving.
No, and he's singing while he's doing it all, too, it's wild. I just love what he does, and it's one of those fun things to like I said, just run into these people. And Matt's one of those guys that I just heard about his stuff online, and I went and saw him at a show, and I just introduced myself. We did a podcast together, I think, before I even saw him live. I never even met him, and we just did a podcast, and he, quickly became one of my favorite people in the music scene, and then I'm not trying to be like, hey, but, Matt Woods said in his podcast, if you've got questions, I will give you the best answers I can give you. Doesn't matter what it's about. How playing this, these different types of gear, this, that, and the other.
Nothing to hide.
Nothing to hide. A great guy when it comes down to that stuff. And guess what? Him and I traded some gear just to try some new gear out. And so when he comes to Fort Dodge, I'm going to have to give him back a couple pieces of gear, and maybe he'll bring the gear I loaned him up, and maybe I'll have to hit him up, and it's going to be so cool just to have him up in the area and talk to him, and like I said, he's a busy man, and he plays wonderful music. So if you're into roots and blues and things like that, swing out to Bootleggers. I'm not trying to be like, let's promote Bootleggers or nothing, but
but just support live music. Go everywhere you can, any chance you get.
Yeah, and I mean that's all it comes down to. Like I said, whether or not it's Chris Anderson, Chris with a K, Anderson with an A, whether or not it's Matt Woods, whether or not it's Michael Husky, if it's you
Chris
or me,
Carr, 2 Ks.
Yeah, Chris Carr, or the Cosmic
that's
Brownies.
His rapper name, by the way.
2 Ks.
2K.
Oh, there you go.
Why 2K? Because.
Oh man, yeah, and that's another one. Like Chris Carr was one of the reasons I actually got interested in live music in the area in the first place. Anyways, he had a music shop and he always played live shows. I would talk to him. He was always nice to me. And that's that's kind of what got me like wanting to play music, is just people like him and Jeremy, and then coming to jam nights and running into you. I met you blindly through Brad, and I didn't even know Brad any more than the Man in the Moon, so it's the podcast has helped out a lot. Playing jam nights has helped a lot. I've run into a lot of really cool people and met a lot of really nice people and got to play a lot of cool shows. Heck, I ran into Jesse at jam nights, and that's how I started playing some songs with him.
You're in a band.
Yeah, now now I am friends of Jesse Wilson and Friends.
Oh man, but Clint Riedel and the Truth. That's not even Brad. It's his bass.
Yeah,
Ruth the Truth is the name of his bass. He is so modest. He's like, not Clinton Brad. Like, that's a great name.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's the other thing about Jesse, too, is like, you never knew who's going to show up at his shows. It could be me. I might have a booking. He might bring someone else with. It might be him and Owen playing bass.
Debo started out with him for a while there, and now, Owen's tagged along. You're going to have a drummer.
And I was playing bass with Debo and Jesse for a while.
That's how that started.
Yeah, and I mean, like the first show me and Jesse did together, I flip-flopped between electric and bass because it was just like, I don't know what you want out of me. Let's just kind of fart it all in here together and see what happens.
On Pete's behalf as well. We played a show together. I was like, hey, man, you want to show up at Sneakers? Thank you, Holly. And he's like, sure. What do you want me to bring? I was like, I don't care. And he brings this pedal board that can make a guitar a bass. Yeah. So every now and then he's like, do lead, and then just boom.
Yeah, back to the bass sound. And so I'd be playing bass sounds for him for a while. And
I have no idea about the technology involved, but it was cool.
Yeah, it just drops all the strings an octave. So it was just like, this is pretty neat, And it's like, oh, time for leads. Just like turn this off and turn on some overdrive and boom, lead time, And then it's like, oh, back to playing the bass, And I did that a little bit here and there. It was fun to experiment with and do, because you usually have a bassist with you, but it's just, I don't know. It's fun to be able to play songs with other people and play music with other people. And thank you for inviting me to play a show with you.
Just the element that any other musician brings, like jam nights are great. Like the vibe. Yeah. Eric Dillon, the actual owner of Barnum, he owns the Junkyard, and he's like, he was there last night, and he says, man, honestly, the best shows I've ever seen are right here on a Tuesday because there's nothing expected, and whatever comes of it, sometimes it's the greatest combination known to Christ. Don't get me wrong. There's times that I just want to, like, break a guitar.
Yeah,
But otherwise, you'll never find that again. That energy is lost, and it's only happening then and there.
Yeah, and we're all doing it out of the goodness and kindness of our hearts, and the fact
that we enjoy playing with each other.
The fact that we like playing guitar,
we
enjoy each other's company. We're doing it for free.
Yep.
Nobody paid Chris Anderson, Chris with a K, Anderson with an A.
Drive. Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna say that every time now because it's the best tagline ever. It makes it so easy to remember him.
That's how I saved it in my phone.
But yeah, I mean that's another thing. I bet he gets bookings up in this area, and if he doesn't, I'm gonna try and help usher him in, and I'm gonna try and get him on the podcast here soon.
God, you musicians out there, just come on out. We'll help us out. We'll help you out. And actually, you don't have to help us out. We're fine, but we'll help you out.
Yeah, swing on up to Barnum if you guys are wondering about it. It's every Tuesday, 7 to 10, Barnum Jam Nights. It's at the Junkyard in Barnum, Iowa. It's real easy to find. If you're just like, I don't know how to find the Junkyard, we'll drive into Barnum, and it's the place where all the music's coming from. It's the place with the cars.
We have 3 streets. I am not exaggerating.
No, he's not. Yeah.
Population 42 because I live here now.
Yeah, and Goody's here too.
42 and a half.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we got just over an hour in here. Once again, Clint, it's awesome to talk to you. You're just like, you're not just a bailout musician for me to sit and talk to. You're also a good friend. You're an easy person to talk to, and we always have good conversations when we sit down and talk. Because, like I said, we came into this one dry. We didn't have anything to talk about other than, like, the awesome jam night that we had last night, and we turned it into plugging just about every place we could and talking about how great the scene up here is, how non-exclusive we are about the scene up here.
And I'm sure this scene exists in any little pocket in Iowa, like, when you go up to Decorah or stuff like that. It's everywhere, but I'm just proud of ours.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that was something that we learned from Vince Benishek as you go over towards the Iowa City area. Once you get out into the smaller towns around there, like Lisbon and stuff, it's the same deal. Like, there's nice little pockets of local musicians that all love each other's stuff, and like I said, we're not the only place that has a supportive scene. Other scenes are supportive, but we're not playing gatekeeper up here at all.
No, it's just like our baby. We're just like, oh, look at it. It could do no wrong. Painted poop paintings.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, once again, if anybody's looking to break into the scene up here, the easiest place might be at the jam nights. We at least get to know the musicians that play in the area, and we can help point you in the right direction as to where to play. And
excited to hear your music. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you got a jam night or an area that you guys like to play at that is not in northern Iowa, or it's sort of near here, I don't care. Let us know. Hit me up on the podcast. I'll talk about it a little bit, or I'll interview you. And
I don't mind sleeping in my car.
Yeah, maybe me and Clint will swing down and do a jam night with you sometime or something. So, yeah, man, thank you very much for sitting down talking with me. I really do appreciate it. And good luck at your shows this weekend and all future endeavors. If you guys are looking for Clint's information, it's in the description section below.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, man, another great episode in the bank. We recorded this one just before the deadline when I, put these episodes out. The episode might be out a little bit late on YouTube, but hopefully nobody's staying up until midnight and then listening to this with it, right when they come out. But if you are, I really appreciate it. And speaking of listening on YouTube, if you guys are listening to this on YouTube, give the episode a like, give us a subscribe. I think it's something like less than 10% of the people that watch the videos on YouTube are actually subscribed. It's something that's very inconsequential to most of you guys in your daily lives, but it means the world to me. And speaking of meaning the world to me, I got to say shout out to Chris Anderson, Chris with a K, Anderson with an A, haha. For coming up to the jam night. I don't run the jam night. I really don't have anything to do with it other than I show up and have fun playing music. So it's neat to have new blood coming up in there, and he's possibly going to get some bookings up in the area out of it because of how good he did, and he was just very nice and inviting guy. He let people play leads to songs of his, and then some of us stepped out and let him do some solo stuff, and we were just egging him on. Keep going, buddy. Keep going. And he did a great job. So I really appreciate, meeting him. Hopefully I'll have him on the podcast here before too long. And, I also got to say thanks to my guest, Clint Riedel. He's one of the hardest working musicians up here in the area. He's been on the podcast a handful of times. He's a great guy. Tons of fun. And, maybe you can catch him at a show. If you're looking for his information, it's all down below in the description section. So thanks, Clint, for joining me, and thanks everybody for listening this week. If you guys are looking for a way to support the podcast in any way, you can just listen, give us a like, give us a review wherever you're listening. Go to Facebook and give us a review. Like us on Facebook, share the episodes. Anything will help. It doesn't have to be monetary, but if you guys are looking for monetary ways to support the podcast, you can go to the Audible Farm shop. That's shop.audiblefarm.com, or you can scroll down below into the descriptions and find the link to that down below. Otherwise, you can go to the Patreon page and watch video versions of this. Video versions of the podcast are $1 a month. That's 4 episodes a month on average. Some months might have more. I doubt there would be any months that would have less. No, I don't think there will be any months that'll have less. Usually there's one a week, so that's 50 episodes a year. It's $12. It doesn't cost very much, but it means the world to me. So if you guys are looking for monetary ways to support the podcast, check that out. I've had people ask me, what is Patreon? Patreon is a website that allows you to go and see what I post on the Audible Farm Patreon page, and it shows video versions of the podcast. Occasionally I will put up coupons and codes to save some money in the shop. The shop is kind of clearing out with some things. I've got t-shirts. I've got a couple hoodies left. Very, very select sizes. There's also stickers available there, or decals if you prefer. They are waterproof. I've seen them on people's guitar cases. I've seen them on garbage cans. I've seen them in bathrooms. I've seen them on doors to venues. I love it when people take pictures of the stickers and say, hey, I saw this in X place, or I saw this in Y location. And it's really, really fun to hear that, and just hear people that are listening to the podcast, like Chris, and he showed up to a jam night just based on the fact that, pretty much I talk about it on the jam night, every few weeks. So the jam night in Barnum is one of my favorite things that's coming up here, and it comes up every single week. It's 7 to 10, 10 being, a rough estimate for how late it goes. And if you're a new person and you want to check out the jam night, come on up. If you play leads, come on up. If you're a singer-songwriter, swing up with your acoustic guitar and sing away. There's not really a sign-up sheet. We kind of play it fast and loose. I don't run the show. It's Clint's jam night, but he's a very, very good host for the jam night. And there's always some fun people there. Every week it changes, and that's one of my favorite things about the jam night. So thank you guys for listening. I just got to say I really do appreciate people listening week in and week out. Once again, smash that subscribe button on YouTube if you're there. There's always tons of fun things coming on there, like some recent guitar projects I've worked on. Some live videos and things of that nature are also on the YouTube channel. So check it out. That's youtube.com/audiblefarm. And I will check you guys next week. I'm working on getting some other guests in here, and my schedule's getting pretty crazy in the upcoming weeks, but I'm going to try and keep the once a week episodes coming out. So check it out. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, it's there. Audible Farm's there. Otherwise, go to YouTube, check it out there, or go to audiblefarm.com. You can listen to the episodes directly from the website there. So thank you guys very much. I'll check you next week. Peace.